since then, I've never been able to stick to a strict intermittent fasting schedule. Just don't have the discipline.
So stars aligned,
I always break the fast.
The stars aligned, and you.
Yeah. I think it had something to do with the hours I was working and when I would be up. You know, I would get home at like 1 o'clock and eat, then wake up at like 5 and eat, and then not eat for the rest of the day. You lose something? How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. There's birds flying around. There's a hawk over there. The sun is powerful today. I cannot stress how fucking beautiful it is. Blue sky. Oh, it's a red bird. Maybe a raven? Or, no. Is a raven red? Yeah, a raven is a red bird, right?
Oh, a robin?
Robin. I knew it was an R. Thank you very much. Robin. I'm going to be back in China in 14 days.
Red robin.
I am not ready to leave the nature.
Do you have a lighter?
I don't. Sorry. It's not on the table. You know, when you live in China, you have these weird fantasies. And one of them that I always have when I'm in China for a long time is I always imagine my backyard on a day like today where it's very sunny and warm.
Yeah.
And I always imagine coming back here and taking off all my clothes and laying in the grass.
Boxers, though?
Maybe. I think it's because in China it's just so depressing sometimes. It's overcast and smoggy, and you can taste the air, and it's just filthy.
So what are we talking about? We're talking about
There's no animals. I'm just talking
your
about
weight loss? Or your...
No. I got sidetracked. I was talking about how beautiful it is, and now I'm talking about China. China just makes me miss nature. Also, I live in a big city. You know, I could live in a more rural part of China and be surrounded by nature. So much fucking nature.
I'm gonna interject.
Okay.
One thing we were talking about how accomplished we felt, or how much we gave a commitment to.
Yeah, I was talking about commitment.
Yeah, commitment to something
to
that we felt.
To you know, lots of things.
I would, hands down, leave it like. I would give props to you, Brian, for teaching me how to stay linear in my conversation speaking.
Well, thank you.
Like, that's probably like an American thing or something?
No, well, I don't know what it is, but it's a very big compliment.
Yeah.
You know, as a dyslexic, it's seriously a big compliment whenever I get a compliment on my writing or my speech, because that shit is not easy.
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
Yeah.
You know, I think I sympathize because of the dyslexia with my students, because they're learning English as a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone says something that doesn't necessarily make sense, I never give them a hard time, or try not to. Because I'm always saying things that people don't understand.
It's unusual.
But
I'll tell you that. It's unusual, but I soak it up as much as I can.
But,
like,
I mean...
He's about to scream at this point, but he's really chill. What the fuck? He's a good teacher.
Well, I think the experience they're having is they know exactly what they want to say in Chinese, but they don't have the words to express it in English. And it's easy to feel stupid when you don't have the vocabulary or the linguistic ability to just convey your idea. And I still struggle to do that all the time, which is why it's so important that I asked a really good friend of mine to edit my book. And he The reason that I had to ask a friend to edit my book is because I need somebody who knows me really well enough to know what I mean to say, even when I say something different.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
And I think there's only a couple people in the world who could do that. It's probably I probably know 2 or 3 people well enough, or maybe 5 people well enough to do that.
Okay.
And he has a background in English, so he's also got the credentials. But the point is, I sympathize with people who can't get their point across the way they want it to.
That's very unique. I never met anybody like that, really. Yeah, I met some people that had like tragedies in their family, so they want to do this in their profession and stuff like that. It's similar, but
For teaching?
not teaching. Just not teaching. It's just different professions. Like now she wants to be a doctor.
Oh, I see. Well, teaching isn't like my calling. I don't want to be a teacher. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get a tan. Oh, sorry for the loud noise, everybody.
Welcome
I'm reflecting the sun.
to the show.
I'm helping with global warming, okay? I'm reflecting the rays back into space.
You probably are.
Yeah,
Black absorbs, white reflects.
that's right.
No, obviously it doesn't, but it's funny.
I have heard YouTube videos where people have said that one of the solutions would be to build giant mirrors in space and reflect sunlight in order to cool the planet. To help with global warming. That
Sounds like a lot of work.
it makes a lot of sense, but yes, it's a tremendous amount of. I mean, Jesus, how much does that cost?
Building giant mirrors.
Yeah, exactly. We need probably 10,000 miles worth of mirror.
So we were talking about.
Oh yeah, so we were talking about commitment. And what are the things that you've committed yourself to? And earlier, before we were recording, I mentioned that learning to read was probably the thing that I've committed myself most to in my entire life. It was probably like the hardest thing I've ever done. Had to go to a special school for learning disabled kids, and it took years for my mom. She was fighting with the county because it was outrageously expensive, so she had to get the county to pay for it. And she was like trying to convince them that I'm not just dumb, that I have a learning disability.
Mm-hmm.
Went to that school for years. We got a private tutor that I saw outside of school and inside of school. So I saw him twice a day for years. Had to use this special method called Orton-Gillingham. Anyone listening, if you have anyone in your family who's dyslexic, especially if they're a child, you have to seek out the Orton-Gillingham method and somebody who teaches that method, who specializes in it. And you have to see that person for years, most likely. And I basically just started reading when I was like 15. Read my first book. It was called The Thousand Orcs by R.A. Salvatore. That man was instrumental in my development because my family, I got into fantasy and like sci-fi, and so my family started looking for those kinds of books to try to, get me interested in reading, and it worked because they bought me The Thousand Orcs, and I owned that book for years and years without being able to read it. I would just turn to a random page and start like looking at the words, but I couldn't get to. I could read some words, but even if I could read every word in the sentence, I would get to the end of the sentence and not have any idea what I read. I couldn't remember any of the words. I couldn't remember any of the meanings. So for years and years, that book was totally worn down without ever being read, just because I was always flipping through it, just looking at random pages. And then the summer after middle school is when I finally read that book. And floodgates opened. I never realized when I was a child that it doesn't matter how smart you were. Or I think I realized this around the time I started reading, because that's when my vocabulary increased. It doesn't matter how smart you are if you can't communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And once my vocabulary started increasing, I started seeing huge improvements in my communication. I was like, this is the key, right here. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I needed.
I don't know about it if I can name a part in my life where I felt like I give 100% or a huge amount of commitment towards something. But I did realize just recently I wasn't happy with my past life, and I'm a lot happier now. And I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I hated my manager job, even though I did it for 8 years. School was just the angle I was taking it in was horrible. And like I need a huge new change. Whatever that change might be. Maybe it's just a different outlook in life, and it's not like I have to take it more seriously or anything. It's just like I have to pick up, probably if I would put it tangible, or I would have to pick like a career that I could stick with. Just like you said, like if there's one thing that I can advise you, pick a profession that you would stick with and that's actually doable and not like a bullshit profession.
Yeah, one that you're going to be happy to be, because you're going to become that person.
Yeah.
Like if you pick plumbing and you do that for 30 years, you're the plumber, and you're an expert in that field, and you have to be happy with being that person. If you can, you should be ecstatic to be that person.
Yeah. I honestly don't know why a math teacher pops up in my head, but that's always in the back of my mind.
Doesn't make any sense.
I know.
You said that.
I know. It's always in the back of my mind, though. But that's probably one of the things that I need to start giving up, like thoughts like that. Just
like be a math teacher.
Yeah.
Definitely give that up.
Yeah.
Sorry, man, but
I'm shit at math.
Yeah, exactly. So you probably shouldn't teach it.
Yeah.
What you were saying inside is that you just want to become better at math.
But that's like
and then you should just make that like a secondary goal.
Yeah.
You know, commit to it to a small degree over a few years. You know, like an hour a week of math. See a tutor or something like that.
But the past 15, just think about it. The past 15 years and the accumulation of when you ask me what profession I would pick as a math teacher, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Pretty ridiculous.
And you reevaluate some things and
definitely.
Figure something out at least. I don't even want to say figure something out. It's like putting an obstacle in front of me, but I need to do something.
I know how you feel. You know, I think listening to Jordan Peterson has made a big difference in the last couple of years.
I really need to listen to the guy.
And I would say the biggest thing that he's influenced me, the biggest way he's influenced me, is he's made me a lot less nihilistic and a lot less hedonistic. Before I listened to him, I didn't really think there was any value in almost anything. Like, I care a lot about my family, but that's about it. Nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes myself. Don't really care. Like, I never interested in planning for the future. But he's made me value responsibility differently than I did before. And I think the way that I value it now is more intelligent.
A close friend of mine realized that about me. He was like, he pulled me to the side at his dad's like funeral. I don't know what you call it. It was after the
the
burial.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
At the church and stuff.
I'm not sure what the name is, but
yeah. He was like, he pulled me aside. He's like, Arman, I see you're not happy, man. Like the things that you're doing, you're not happy about it. Like, and the things that he hears from my brother and stuff like that. He's like, you don't want to do construction the whole day. You don't want to. Nobody does, and it's not like wrong to be like, to tell your parents, be like, no, like, no one's gonna be happy doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially me. He's like, it's not wrong to be like, no, I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
it's like a waste of time for me. It's not something I want to do the rest of my life. And thankfully, I've been slowly coming up to that point where, like, I don't want to be that shoeless shoemaker where I don't have time for anything else, and it's just not a good life. I've seen it in my dad where he just doesn't have time for anything else. He just works. I want to have that free time and do what I love at the same time.
Yeah. I would accept not having any free time as long as what I'm doing I love doing.
Yeah, I want to get to that point. Now, getting to that point, what's the steps to that?
Different for everyone.
Yeah, that's a tough question. But I think starting this business is the step.
I think it's a very good idea.
Yeah. Somehow being independent in my life and just gravitating over things that just make me more independent.
And attempting big things feels good. And that's what we were getting into about commitment earlier, is when you attempt something big, there's the underlying fear that you're going to fail. But I think a lot of that fear comes from, like, self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, am I going to really give this the what's the word? The commitment. Am I going to really give this the commitment that it deserves? Like, if something requires 100% commitment to
mm-hmm.
succeed, but you're confident that you can succeed if you commit that much,
yeah,
but you don't do it, well, then you must be afraid that you're not going to commit. That you're going to procrastinate and get lazy or get bored.
Yeah. No, I don't feel any of that yet, or right now.
But I read Mastery by Robert Greene a little while ago, and becoming bored with something you're doing is a key step on the way to becoming an expert. Like, everything has a novelty in the beginning,
mm-hmm.
and then it slowly loses that novelty, and eventually all the novelty is gone, and it's just work, and you no longer see, like, the romantic side of it, and it's just a pain in the ass. It's just work, and so you have to push through that.
Nihilistic. What can you say about being nihilistic? And, like, how do you don't consider yourself nihilistic anymore?
Not very much. I definitely have, like, an intense urge to be nihilistic, like an intense maybe proclivity.
What does it mean to be nihilistic?
It means nothing. You believe that nothing matters.
Okay. I want to say nothing matters. Just a lot in my life right now doesn't matter.
Well, I think it's really easy to feel nihilistic. It's a very comfortable place to be, because if you're truly nihilistic, then nothing matters, and there's no reason to ever have any responsibility. You can live a life with no responsibility.
No, I'm not in that extreme, I don't think.
But I'm saying that's the idea.
Yeah.
Like, that's the allure. Because if you decide not to be nihilistic, then everything matters. And I'm getting this from Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
It's a very interesting point that I heard him say. If you decide not to be nihilistic, you're accepting that everything matters. And if you're accepting that everything matters, then you need to confront what you're doing right and wrong. Most likely doing wrong.
So let's say you accept everything that is important. What do you do from there?
You start digging yourself out of the hole that you're in. I think a couple of years ago I was in a hole when I got out of college, and then started working around here, I think I went straight into a hole where I was working, but that's all I was doing. And I didn't feel like I was making any progress at all. I felt like I was dying, like I was stagnating. And that's part of the reason why I was so motivated to get into finance and investing. And I was so willing to commit what free time I had to that, because I felt like I had to do something. I am not a good employee. I'm a terrible employee.
What could be one of the ways to take you out of the hole?
Well, I think I started using my time more effectively. I stopped wasting time. I started accepting that if I'm going to work hard, then I'm going to work intelligently. And that's part of the reason why I justified the move to China, because China will allow me to free up the majority of my time each week. So now, instead of finding time throughout the week like I was here in America, the vast majority of my week is free in China. And so now I can work as hard as I want, as in any direction I want. And I'm not going to lie, I went from dealing with nihilism to dealing with sloth, with procrastination and being lazy. You really do have to watch out, because it's easy to get the impression that you have lots of time, but we really have very, very little. Just in general, we don't live very long.
Yeah. I've been desperately trying to find a routine and sticking with my routine.
Yeah. I was telling you before, did we talk about this in the last podcast, that I had those 8 a.m. classes?
We can talk about it. We deleted it.
Oh, did we delete that one?
Yeah.
Well, this last year is one of the strongest routines I ever had, and it was because I just happened to get 8 a.m. classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so on those days, I'd be waking up at like 5 a.m. and feeling great, because I went to sleep at like 10 the night before. Wake up at 5, get some work done for an hour and a half, 2 hours, go get some breakfast, go to my 8 a.m. class, and get back to the house around lunchtime, have the rest of the day free, have lunch, take a nap, wake up at 3, work from 3 to 9. It was a very good routine.
Even though you say you don't want to work the 9 to 5, you're still working that routine.
Yeah, but I'm just doing that in other things. I'm writing, or I'm reading, or I'm studying, or I'm making the video content.
Yeah.
Whatever. Or I'm traveling. Spending time with friends, or seeing new places. But just doing something.
Yeah.
And now I'm watching a deer pee. He missed it. It was magical.
I did feel happy. I'm not like, whenever anybody comes into this type of discussion, you question, is that person happy or not? I definitely felt happy. Like, we picked up doing the Twitch thing and doing the YouTube videos roughly at the same time. And I was happy. I had tons of free time, but I was doing the videos. I was learning that process. Going to the gym. And that's all I would do. But I was happy. And that took 6 hours of the day, every day. Definitely a commitment.
I think that's a good commitment.
Yeah.
Just add some studying to that, and you'll have a good routine.
Yeah. I just don't know what I want to study.
Just anything. You seem to be interested in philosophy. Go buy a book on philosophy. Read it.
Yeah, I do like philosophy.
Read it 5 times. I don't know how fast you read.
That's actually not a bad idea in philosophy.
Yeah, why not?
But I bullshit you not. When I read a book right after the semester, I could instantly feel my linguistic skills going up a notch.
Yeah, you should read more. I try to read as much as I can, but it's painful. It's so slow.
Yeah.
Fucking Kindle.
How is that?
Well, the Kindle's great. The only issue I have with a Kindle is when you first open a book, it'll give you like estimated reading time.
Yeah.
And that's like what people's averages are.
Yeah.
And it's like estimated reading time, 3 hours and 40 minutes. And I'll be reading it for like 2.5 weeks.
Do you recommend buying a Kindle?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah. For some reason, I've always wanted to build a library and like actually stock it with all the books that I've read.
Yeah.
Something, it's like it's probably like a trophy response, you know. But I'll still read everything on a Kindle, and then when I finish a book, I'll order the hard copy and put it in my library. Yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah, I have a little bookshelf of my own. But those are just books that I always wanted to have. Those are just books that I always wanted to have to, like, as a kid and stuff like that, and while taking English in high school and stuff like that. It wasn't necessarily books that I wanted to read right off the bat. Just books that I like. Probably should. You should come over one of these days just to check out the book collection that I have.
Yeah, I definitely will. I got a bunch downstairs as well, a bunch of fantasy books and sci-fi if you're interested.
I don't know how interested I'm in. I'll definitely check it out, but probably have. But I don't know how interested I am in sci-fi. I like the whole folklore and it definitely has connections, like mythology and such. I just think, like, what kind of fantasy is it?
It's like high fantasy, fucking dwarves and elves and shit. What's that at?
Ooh, my phone is hot.
Yeah, exactly.
27 minutes.
Want to finish this inside so your phone doesn't explode?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be pretty bad. This phone actually has a sensor in it. If the phone gets too hot, it turns off.
Oh, nice.
So, essentially what we're talking about is, like, being productive. And I definitely feel productive in the little things I do, but just in a different way. I've learned to chill out a little bit, pick my battles a little smarter, and not give full commitment to things that essentially in hindsight don't even matter anymore.
Yeah, I hear you. That goes along with like wasting time.
Yeah.
I always think about how much time I've wasted and what a shame it is, but the way I justify it is by saying, okay, from now on I won't waste any time. But I still do.
Yeah.
I just think I waste way, way less now than I used to.
Yeah.
Man, it was hot outside.
Yeah, it was pretty cancerous.
I got cooked. Oh yeah. Working on a nice pink. That's all I can hope for. I don't ever tan. I just go pink and then go white again.
Freckles absorb more light than
Yeah, eventually
your
all
skin.
my freckles will combine and I'll be tan.
I got a couple freckles.
Well,
There's different types of people, man. But, like,
you know, when you think about time, you know, I always think of the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z, where you spend one day in there. One day in real life is a year in there, so you can go in there for a year and only a day's gone by.
and you still haven't answered, what would you do in there?
Well, I would do whatever I want, but that's the thing. I'm making this assumption that I don't have enough time in real life, and I wish I had this time chamber.
Yeah.
But what if I have the time in real life to do all those things that I want to do in there? Like, what I would do in there is, like, learn to play instruments, like, read, fucking play every video game I've ever wanted to play, watch every movie, watch every TV show.
Yeah.
All those things. Now, of course, a lot of those things aren't like, what's the word? Desirable. Like, you don't necessarily want to watch every movie and TV show. But it goes along the lines of wanting more time, assuming that I don't have enough time. But when I'm wasting all my time.
Yeah, no, in the past I've had this one incident where I was like, there's not enough hours in the day to get things done. Have you ever felt like that?
I think that we should always feel like that. I think that people should always be working hard enough where there is more things that they could have done today, but they shouldn't do it today because they have a strict schedule. Mm-hmm. Like, if your schedule is, well, I'm going to sleep for 8 hours and work for 16 hours.
That's like a sneaky way of procrastination coming up.
How? Working hard is procrastination?
No, the opposite.
Oh.
Of, like, keeping it for the next day.
Yeah, that is absolutely procrastination.
It's like a mutated source of procrastination.
But, like, if your routine says that you work for a certain amount of time, you work for that amount of time, then not working anymore is not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, of course. Gotta be sane and reasonable.
I forgot what I was going to say. What were we talking about?
Just,
Hyperbolic time chamber.
Staying productive. But, like...
Oh, I was going to talk about Elon Musk or somebody like that. Somebody like Elon Musk has the same amount of hours in the day that we do. Mm-hmm. And look at all the things he's done.
Yeah. He has a lot of resources, but that's just like devil's advocate in me.
Yeah. He's hyper efficient with his time.
Yeah.
Anybody at that level has to be. Jeff Bezos, I'm sure, is the same. Bill Gates, I'm sure, is the same.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I'm trying to aspire to ultimately. Regardless of what I'm doing, whether it's classically considered productive or not, I just want to do it efficiently and do it with maximum commitment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you guys, I don't know.
Hope you enjoyed this conversation. It was a little bit more serious than we usually do.
Yeah.
But I guess we were just in a serious mood today. I don't know. Well, gonna call it here?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. Like, share, subscribe, comment, or don't. Do whatever you like. This has been another podcast with Brian and Arman.
Take care.
Bye-bye.